Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Today's date is February 27th, 2025. It is 7:30 p.m. and this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Real Property Reuse Committee. Present at the beginning of the meeting are from the committee, from Ward 1, Councilor Oliver. Is Councilor Lucas here? Yes, Councilor Lucas is here. From Ward 2, he is the vice chair. Councilor Malachy from Ward 3, Councilor Gentile from Ward 4, Councilor Getz from Ward 5. I am Vicki Danberg from Ward 6. I am the chair of the committee. Is Councilor Laredo here from Ward 7? Yes. No, I don't see Councilor Laredo yet from Ward 7. I have not heard from him. And from Ward 8, we have Councilor Lipoff. He is not a member of the committee. Councilor Kalis, I do not see yet from Ward.
Member of the committee.
Say that again, please.
I am a member of the committee.
Oh, of course. Councilor Lipoff is a member of the committee. And also present, we have the Director of Planning, Barney Heath. We have our Assistant City Solicitor, Andrew Lee. We have Cassidy Flynn, who is our clerk. We have Councilor from Ward 3. We have Councilor Kelly. We have from Ward 2, Councilor Albright. Welcome aboard. We have Attorney Lawrence Lee here, who I believe is representing a person who is interested in the property. And we have John Sisson, who is the Director of Economic Development for the city. And I see Greg Riedman, who is the Executive Director of the Charles River Chamber of Commerce. Is there anyone that I've missed? Okay, if not, we have one item tonight before the committee. It is item number 205-24. It is the reuse of a parcel of land on Chestnut Street. The Director of Planning and Development submitting on April 8th, 2024, a letter stating that the 8 parking places on city-owned property at 25 Chestnut Street should be made available for sale or lease pursuant to the City of Newton's ordinances, section 2-7. Now, we hope tonight to bring this to a vote so that we could move this forward. At the last meeting, we voted in regards to the property to make it the initial determination to sell or lease it, but we have not decided whether we would sell it or lease it. All of the 3 motions that we made were voted 7-0 in favor. The second motion was to waive the joint advisory planning group, and we had a motion to set the public hearing for tonight, February 27th. So tonight, we will hold that public hearing on the item, after which we will bring the item back into discussion to the Real Property Reuse Committee and take a vote as to whether to sell or lease the property and on what terms. So we will start off with an introduction from Mr. Heath, and then we will hear from Andrew Lee as to the next steps in the procedure. Mr. Heath.
Thank you, Chair Danberg, members of the committee. I will just briefly reprise the memo I prepared for this meeting. I know that this matter has been before this group a couple of times now with myself and Attorney Andrew Lee. So the property is the police annex property at 25 Chestnut Street. Since 1984, the Newton Police Department and the City Council had authorized a lease of the 14 parking spaces. The lease in 1984 was extended 3 times for a total of 40 years. That lease expired at the end of September 2024. The property itself has been vacant since October of 2022. The current proposal this evening is to use portions of 8 spaces that are shared between the police department and the property at 1 Chestnut Street. I think, as Andrew will lay out for you as well tonight, I should also say that we've had multiple discussions with the police chief about these spaces. He's entirely comfortable with either the sale or a long-term lease option. They actually gain use of 6 spaces that previously, under the previous lease, they had to share. The current proposal tonight that you'll hear from Attorney Lawrence Lee, representing the current property owner, is to either lease or buy, again, portions of 8 parking spaces which directly abut their property. One of the things that had come up previously is what portion of the spaces is owned by the city and what portion of the spaces of the 8 spaces is owned by the property at 1 Chestnut. We had Associate City Engineer John Daglian do the measurement for us. It turns out that the city owns 69% of the 8 spaces, and the 1 Chestnut property owner owns 31%. Also, in preparation for this meeting, we had our city assessor do an analysis of the lease valuation of these spaces and a sale valuation. Those were provided as part of the memo. So I think with that brief introduction, I'll turn it over to Attorney Andrew Lee to see if he has any comments.
Thank you, Director Heath and Madam Chair. So first off, I'd like to note there are 2 Attorney Lees. I am Andrew Lee. I am an attorney for the city. So just for a quick process update, after the public hearing is closed tonight, the Real Property Reuse Committee essentially has 2 choices. They can make the property available for sale or lease, or they can make a determination that the city is going to retain all interest in the property and use it for municipal purposes. I think it's really important to note that if the Reuse Committee makes the determination to make the property available for either sale or lease, and the City Council adopts that recommendation for the mayor, the executive department still has to go through a procurement process under Chapter 30B, which is a state statute, in order to determine who the purchaser is going to be, meaning that they have to publish notice that the property is available for sale, identify any characteristics with regards to how a bid will be evaluated, and then once all of the responses come in, make a selection as to a purchaser. So that process still has to play out even after the city council portion is done. That's pretty much the end of the process, but I'm here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Attorney Lee, and yes, City Attorney Lee. So I will now open the public hearing. I think we have some people here that would like to speak, and I will call on you. If you would please raise your yellow hand, I will call on you in the order in which I see your hand. I see Lawrence Lee, followed by Councillor Kelly.
I'd be happy to defer to Councillor Kelly if she wishes to go first.
Yes, let's, if I could hear from Councillor Kelly first, we will then start the public hearing. Go ahead, Councillor Kelly.
I was going to defer to Attorney Lawrence Lee, but anyway, I'm one of the at-large ward councilors from Ward 3, and I think that this is the kind of business that we've been looking to encourage to enter all of our village centers, but specifically West Newton individually. It is a small, independent, locally owned business that will keep the structure the way it is, and they need some parking. I am in favor of this personally. I'll let you all haggle out which way the two parties want to go, but I think a lease is a better arrangement for the city. And I do have a question for City Attorney Andrew Lee. You talked about the procurement process for purchase. Was it for purchase only, or does that apply for leasing also?
It applies to a lease as well.
So either of them would have to go out to public bid. Okay. I think that this is a business we would very much like in West Newton Square. I think that when they thought they were originally going to have access to 14 spaces, even trying to accommodate 8 was, a compromise and negotiation on their part. And though parking in the square is needed, this business won't be able to operate without parking. And I would, for one, would sorely miss having this business come into West Newton Square. So I hope that Real Property Reuse tonight decides to sell or lease it. And I guess that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Counselor Kelly. In case I need a motion, Counselor, Attorney Lee, do I need a motion to open the public hearing?
No, Councilor Danberg, you can open the public hearing as chair.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. I see Sachiko Ishihara first. So Sachiko, go ahead.
Hi, my name is, excuse me, Sachiko Ishihara. I live at 15 Davis Street in West Newton, and I am, I guess, considered an abutter to the property. And I just wanted to express that I am in favor of the city making those spaces available for lease or purchase.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ishihara. Emily Carroll.
You'd think after so many years, I would be more adept at this Zoom thing. We live on Lenox Street in West Newton, and I feel like we've seen all the neighborhoods around us become much more revitalized, and to have a small local business take over that space and the parking, I think would be just such a huge benefit to our neighborhood and would be used all the time throughout the year. So I'm also in favor.
Very, very well. Thank you very much for the comments. Mr. Lee, Lawrence Lee, you are next.
Thank you very much.
Followed by Michelle Stern.
Thank you, Chair Danberg. Good evening again, Lawrence Lee. I'm here representing the property owner, which is JMCRE LLC, as well as Hilliard's. I've been appointed as the point person on their behalf. They have a contract by which Hilliard's Chocolates is needing and wanting to purchase the property. I think this has been going around quite a bit, and I think we all have heard who is going in, and so I want to give a little bit of background. At least this is a public forum that is on the record. So Hilliard's Chocolates is a 100-year-old business. They originally have roots in Newton, going back many, many, many years. They wish to come back, and the point is that they looked at this property. They think this is going to be great because they can reuse the building, and with the hope that they can utilize the portion of the city land that makes up those 8 parking spaces. So as Director Heath pointed out, there's been a 40-year relationship between these two properties. And so part of those 8 spaces that currently exist, what we see today, belong to 1 Chestnut Street. And the other portion, which is about 2/3, belong to the city. And what we're looking to do is that we hope the city and the councilors here will approve the sale. I know there's been discussions about sale versus leasing. I've looked at Director Heath's memorandum. The folks at Hilliard's did as well, who are, by the way, actually here, Gordon and Megan, representing Hilliard's. I think in terms of a sale, that is the preferred route, if you wish to know what that is. And I think that gives a lot of certainty for Hilliard's. They have invested a lot of money already and capital and time. They don't do anything short term. You know, they have other locations, and this is one of those long-term investments that they want to make in a city. They want to come back to Newton. They want to bring some life back into that vacant building that's been there vacant for the last several years. So if there's any questions about Hilliard's, the company, I have some more information I can share through a PowerPoint if you'd like. Gordon and Megan are also here if there are any other questions and if there's anything that you'd like us to add. But we will be participating, obviously, in the RFP process, should you decide. There is a time component to this, because if this moves forward, hopefully, again, it's a sale, there will be a lot of work that follows. As Attorney Andrew Lee mentioned, there's a process that still has to happen. And our goal really is to try to get Hilliard's in there ASAP, so that particularly we got the holidays coming up. We can't believe we're at the end of winter, but we're already looking forward to the next winter. Christmas is a huge, huge holiday for them. So they need to make sure that they get in there in time. And there's a lot of prep work and a lot of permitting work that needs to happen before that. So we're really hoping that there's a vote tonight, and it will be that allows them to move forward with the process. So we're here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney Lee. Michelle Stern.
Thank you. Just unmuting. So thank you, Chair Danberg. So yes, I'm Michelle Stern. I live on Leonard Avenue. And I know Gordon Scott and his family. We happen to be neighbors. So they're, you know, a really wonderful Newton family. And I don't know if you've ever had Hilliard's chocolates. We've benefited by being neighbors with them, of having quite a variety of different flavors of Hilliard's, and it's a really, really high quality product. I always am a big fan of supporting small businesses. I think, you know, having Hilliard's in the West Newton Square would for sure, at least I know I and my husband would go to West Newton Square more often. It's just the kind of place where, you know, you would just find yourself wanting to pick up gifts, you know, throughout the year, and probably sneak in a treat for for myself as well every now and again. So I think it's exactly the kind of business that makes sense for West Newton Square, and you know, really am hopeful that a decision here tonight will allow you know, their business to come to Newton at some point this year. So, or come back to Newton, I guess I should say. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stern. Greg Reedman, followed by Emily Carroll.
Good evening, Madam Chair and councilors. My name is Greg Reedman. I am president of the Charles River Regional Chamber, and I've been in that job for 13 years now. And over those years, there are two questions that I've been consistently asked whenever a discussion about our village center businesses comes up. The first one is, how come every time there's a vacancy in a village, it seems like it goes to a bank or to a nail salon? And the second question is, what can the city do to attract a more interesting mix of small independent businesses to our village centers? Tonight, it's easy. My answer to both questions is agree to sell Hilliard's the portion of the parking lot adjacent to the police annex that's necessary for them to open their chocolate shop here. Hilliard's is a third generation family business. Its Newton roots date back to 1924. They are exactly the kind of business that elevates other businesses, that helps the other ones. All ships rise with the tide with this. They're exactly the type of business we want in Newton. Residents are going to love this place, and counselors, you're going to love this place too. All that's standing between Hilliard's coming to West Newton really is this vote and your decision tonight and the decision of the full council. Don't be the Grinches that deprive Newton of Hilliard's. Please support this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reedman. And I'm going to go to Annette Seward first, because I think, Emily, you have spoken already. So Annette, go ahead, and then Ms. Carroll.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I would love to have Hilliard's in the neighborhood. I live on Davis Street, so I'm also kind of in a butter. But I think it would be really nice if the whole West Newton community could benefit from those spaces. If Hilliard's has those spaces exclusively, then you could park there to get your chocolate, but then you can't also go to the movies, you can't also go to Flora's, you can't also go to Paper Mouse, because the parking would be dedicated to Hilliard's. And I feel like those shops on the south side of Washington Street are all small businesses that could benefit from those parking spots. That's what I want to say.
Ms. Carroll, would you still like to speak?
Oh, I just wanted to add, I teach at Bowen Cooperative Nursery School, and so we see sort of a cross-section of families and generations. And the buzz around the school has also been that for families from great grandparents all through young families, Hilliard's would just be such a really wonderful local family addition to West Newton. So just that it sort of seems to span appeal for multi-generations. That was it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Councillor Lipoff, I'm going to hold off on you until we bring it into discussion. Do we have Lawrence Lee? Would you like to speak to the issue of being able to visit other businesses in the neighborhood while still parked at Hilliard's?
Well, I want to address actually, the reference of the parking spaces, and I want to sort of go back to it and clarify, which is helpful to look at Director Heath's memo, which has the plans that are outlined. So there's a reference of 8 parking spaces. I do want to correct for the record that the city does not own 8 parking spaces. And the 8 parking spaces exist by using part of my client's land and part city land. So if the city were to just act on its own, we don't have 8 parking spaces. There may be 3, we don't know. But this reference of 8 parking spaces where it benefits the square, that only happens with the use of private land. So I can't speak to in terms of, someone going to Hilliard's, and if I'm making a presumption here that, that we are in that Hilliard's is awarded this, or that we end up buying the spaces or the land that makes up the spaces, and that Hilliard's is there. I think that's a detail that is way further down the road in terms of what it can be. It can be used by customers of Hilliard's. So, but I do want to just mainly focus on clarifying the city land and private land.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lee. Do we have any other comments from members of the public? Do I see anyone else who would like to speak? If not, I will close the public hearing and bring it into committee. I see one. Let's reopen the public hearing. Is it Miss Devon?
Hi, yes, I'm Devon Villarreal.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. As said, I'm Devin. I live at 164 Chestnut Street, so just up the hill from 1 Chestnut Street. My family, which is myself, my husband, our rescue dog, and our 6 and 8-year-old sons, we moved here as a family in the fall of 2019, and today I support the Hilliard's proposal. And there are 3 main reasons that I support it. One is the chocolate. That doesn't need much explanation. It is good. It makes for really good gifts. Number 2 is West Newton Square, which I do want to talk in more detail about. And number 3 is supporting small local businesses. As I said, the chocolate doesn't need much explanation. But moving on to West Newton Square, that does require a bit of context. I grew up raised in 2 households due to divorce. One was in Newton on Waverly Avenue, and the other one was half a mile from Lexington Center. And although my sisters and we were fond of biking up Waverly Avenue to go to the old Wishnow's for Italian ice from time to time. Wishnow's is now Blacker's Bakery. By far and away, the town that I felt really connected to as a child and have very positive memories about was Lexington. And the reason why Lexington has so much more positive memories for me is because we went to its town center a lot. We had a lot of reasons to go there. The Lexington Flick, the town green, the balloon shop for toys and birthday presents, the entrance to the rail trail, the yarn shop, Wild and Woolly. The fact that I remember the name of the yarn shop from my childhood is surprising to me. Yangtze River for special occasions, Bay Bank, where I opened up my first savings account. And for me, the crown jewel was Candy Castle. There was so much to do in Lexington Center that it was a real destination and a set of experiences for my family. It was weekend traditions, and then it became later a place where me and my friends would go to hang out, to bring our allowance money. We had things to do there, and I have so many positive memories. I want for my sons to develop a similar sense of pride in their local village center. And right now it's tough in West Newton Square. And honestly, it feels like it's gotten harder to take pride in West Newton Village Square, despite a lot of improvements to the sidewalks than since we moved in 2019, because there have been so many closures of interesting, unique, family-friendly shops. Honestly, I think the biggest draw for my kids right now is going to the highway to watch the commuter rail. There's just not a lot of relevant things for us to do as a family in a pretty large village square that is walking distance from our house. I believe that adding Hilliard's, a chocolate shop, which provides a place to go and get gifts for teachers, holiday gifts, would be a really great addition to the West Newton Square neighborhood. It would be a positive step in curating the vibrant village center that draws people and families in. And in contrast, the likely alternatives to 1 Chestnut Street, in the event that this doesn't move forward, do not seem as appealing to me and my family. And then the third reason why I'm supporting Hilliard's here is because I want us to support small local businesses. I hope it's safe to assume that the council prioritizes supporting small local businesses. I also assume it's true that you want to support lovely, aesthetically lovely historic buildings. Where I can contribute as a neighbor, however, is that my understanding is that the owners, or the people who want to, owners of Hilliard's who wish to be at 1 Chestnut Street, are already wonderful contributors to Newton. The Scotts are conscientious, they're cheerful, they're generous neighbors. They show up at school events, they volunteer for the PTO, they're community builders. And I would love to see them succeed in expanding their business in Newton. Thank you very much for your consideration.
You're entirely welcome. Thank you very much for your comments. John Sisson, then we will bring it into committee if we don't have any further comments from the public. Go ahead. John.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to just bring up one thing. I think everyone is aware of the vacant storefronts nearby. But earlier this week, Alan Kalish had reached out to me to let me know he and his wife, Marilyn, were closing the art gallery at 1286 Washington Street, presumably for a lack of foot traffic. So I think in terms of, I know y'all have a lot on your plates, and I appreciate your patience for giving me time to speak. I would just hope that we can focus on the possible outcomes of tonight's decision. And as I see it, there's three. Nothing happens. This commercial space remains idle. I don't think anyone wants that to happen. Two, we have a new retail business open in this location and starts helping us with foot traffic in the area. And three, if there is not an agreeable solution to getting this business into this location, the property owner, I don't know what they'll do after that, if there's a redevelopment option or not. I do know there's a redevelopment proposed nearby. So I guess I would just ask everyone to focus on their desired outcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sisson. Do we have any more comments from the public? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it into discussion within committee. And we will start with Councillor Lipoff, followed by Councillor Gentile.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. To me, it doesn't matter what business is going in here. I would be voting tonight to move to do a sale, because any business is going to be great in West Newton. We don't want empty spaces. That being said, to the right on the screen over here, I have Hilliard's website, and this is one of my loves, one of my passions, is visiting whenever I'm on vacation, these kind of chocolate stores, and it's going to be incredible for the city, for West Newton. So let's move this forward. I'll be voting for this tonight, specifically for a sale, and I'll let Councillor Gentile make that motion when the time is right.
Thank you, Councillor Lipoff. Go ahead, Councillor Gentile.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Councillor Lipoff, for allowing me to do this. To start the discussion, I do have a motion that I would like to make, and it reads as follows: that the Real Property Reuse Committee recommends that the city-owned portion of the 8 parking spaces at 25 Chestnut Street, including a right of access over the parking lot, be made available for sale with a minimum sale price of $276,000. And if I could just speak briefly on the motion, Madam Chair, I'd appreciate it.
Please go ahead.
I'm not sure what happened 40 years ago to approve the current arrangement, or the arrangement that recently expired, but it's never made any sense to me that we would have a situation where we have parking spaces that are jointly owned by a private entity along with the city. And I really think that this gives us an opportunity to clean that up. So that's the first reason for my motion. Second, as far as the minimum sale price, which is really, the only thing that we can do after recommending, sale or lease or both. The way the numbers work is really simple math. The assessors department helped us to arrive, or recommended an average price of $50,000 per parking space. Not a lot of parking spaces are sold, so I don't think it's an easy number to come up with, but I'm comfortable that it is fair, certainly fair to the city, and I also think it's fair to the private owner. So if you have 8 spaces, that's $400,000. We've all heard about the survey that was done by the city. The city owns 69% of those 8 spaces, and the private entity owns 31%. So they need to buy 69% in order to get the 8 spaces. 69% of 400,000 is $276,000, which is why I would like us to establish that as the minimum sale price. So I hope that that's at least explains the thinking. I know that others, would desire a lease, but the one thing I do agree with, the one thing that I do think we should really try hard tonight is to dispose of this and get it to the city council so we can keep the process moving. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Gentile. Councilor Lucas, Vice Chair Lucas, followed by Councilor Maliki.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for Andrew Lee. It has to do with the sale or lease. And I think you said it's a open public bid. And I was just wondering, does that mean it's essentially an auction?
It's not an auction in the sense of it would go to the, highest bidder that just bids the highest amount of money. I anticipate that through the bid process, one of the criteria that the city is going to be looking at is that the purchaser has the ability to maximize the use of the property for some business revitalization purposes. My point being that we don't have to just make it the highest bidder. There's these other options and things the city can look at in selecting the purchaser.
And who ultimately has final say to select the purchaser if it's a sale or a lease?
The mayor.
The mayor has final say.
That's correct.
Okay, not the city council. All right. So I am in favor of Hilliard's Chocolate coming in, and I just want to let everyone know I am probably the only person on the call who probably doesn't consume chocolate, but I still want them to come in. If they serve up a nice cup of coffee, I'll certainly visit them, and I can always buy chocolate for gifts for someone else, but I will not be buying them for me. So I am sorry to the owners of Hilliard's Chocolate on that part. But for the business that we have tonight, I am going to disagree with Councilor Lipoff and Gentile. I am of the opinion that we should lease the 8 parking stalls to the, I presume, Hilliard's Chocolate. The 276,000 is a lot of money. It's a lot of money to open up a business. I think the 24,000 on a annual lease, I think that's better. And that way the city still maintains some control over the spaces and still maintains ownership of them. So I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lucas. Councilor Maliki, followed by Councilor Albright, then Oliver.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I don't want to be too repetitive because there have been so many great comments. I absolutely think this is a great use of the site. I think the building is great for Hilliard's, having seen 2 of their 3 other stores. And I think I certainly want this to go ahead. I had some reservations. Well, certainly last year when this first came to us, I was not about to approve either a sale or lease to a sort of party to be determined later. But to me, the advantages of Hilliard's are the kind of business they are, the fact that they have a long-term perspective as seen by their record in the 3 towns where they operate south of Boston. Product is great. I bought all my favorite flavors and I can attest to that. And they want to preserve the building, which is a very important thing to me. It's such a great building. Some may recall I tried to get it landmarked, did not succeed at that, but it's beautiful. It's got green space, and it's you know, part of the landscape that I value. I would I don't know if there's anything more I need to say. The reason I preferred lease was to sort of give Hilliard's a chance to, you know, actually operate before and get started and see how things went. I do expect them to be successful, and it was more just in case that things did not, for some reason, work out, that the city, as Councilor Lucas said, we would still have some control in the future. And I also wanted to be assured that this was really going to happen and everyone was on board with it. And I've been assured that if we approve either the sale or a lease with an adequate term, that the sale is, both parties are committed to have the sale go through. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Malachy. Councillor Albright, then Councillor Oliver.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I'm heartily in favor of Hilliard's moving into West Newton. I wish nothing but success to my village to the west, and to see them have no more empty storefronts in the future, as we've been experiencing in Newtonville. As to the sale or lease, I could have been happy either way. If the lease had been something that would help Hilliard's to get started and get off the ground, that would have been fine. But I can see the benefits of the sale because it's clearing up a very odd situation where the city owns a part of a parking space and the proprietor owns another part of a parking space, which is kind of weird. But since the owner of the Hilliard's is willing to buy the spaces, I think that probably makes sense to get it settled and stop this shared parking space problem. So I hope that this committee will vote in favor. It's a wonderful addition, and I love chocolate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Albright. Councillor Oliver, followed by Councillor Getz.
Thank you, Chair. So I think it's fair to say that I would challenge anyone in this room to my sweet tooth. I'll take y'all on. No questions asked. Perhaps even the property owners or I should say the owners of Hilliard's at this point. But anyway, that aside, because I really don't think that this is about Hilliard's. I really don't. As I believe it was Mr. Reedman, I think I'm the Grinch in the room tonight. As much as I want Hilliard's to open, and I would welcome, and probably will, because I believe I'm in the minority in this particular vote, I do not support this sale or lease of the land for dedicated parking to one business, regardless of what that business is in West Newton. I am firmly of the opinion, and I believe every city councilor here is to varying degrees of the same mind, but I will only speak for myself here. West Newton has a parking problem, which affects every single business in West Newton. We have, over the past 2 or 3 months, I forget the time frame, received multiple letters from residents in support of Hilliard's moving in, and therefore the sale of the land for parking. And I've tried to write to as many of those people as I could and ask questions about, well, you know, what about the other businesses? What about Flora? What about Hip Stitch? What about, you know, insert name of business in West Newton here? I don't think the city has the ability to procure dedicated parking spaces for any business should they come along and say, you know what? If I don't get dedicated parking spaces, I can't renew my lease. I have to leave West Newton Square. I realize that there are people here who say, oh, well, then Hilliard's isn't going to move in and the building's going to get knocked down and maybe God knows what they're going to be built there. And I suppose that's possible. I hope that would not be the outcome should we decide as a group to not sell or lease this property to the property owner. But I believe the city has a broader responsibility to all the businesses, not just one. And I gotta say, like, anyway, like, I don't think I need to prolong or say all the things I had lined up here, but it just seems to me like this would be an error. Like, if we don't sell this land, if we do not do this transaction, we can still come up with a better way, in my opinion. And I think this is what Councilor Gentile was alluding to at the beginning. And, I hope I don't get this wrong, but what if the city retained and we worked out this arrangement such that, and I know this isn't on the table tonight, I know we can't do this through this process, but if Hilliard's were to retain half of the parking spaces, right, the 31% plus the city say, well, okay, well, let's redivide this, and the city keeps part of the land so that we can maintain some of the parking spaces for public use, and Hilliard's gets some number of dedicated parking spaces, and then there'd still be the 4 parkings or whatever number of parking spaces that the city would retain that would be where they are today, just available to everyone to use all day long. But they'd be right next to Hilliard's or this property, should Hilliard's not move in. So I guess long-winded way of saying, yep, I'm the Grinch tonight. I apologize for that. I do believe that the process is well in hand, but I'm going to be the dissenter. I will be voting no on this. I don't think this is the right move for city land. I've probably said that 4 times, so I'm going to stop. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Oliver. Councilor Getz, followed by Councilor Lipoff.
Thank you, Chair. I actually wanted to pose a question to Andrew Lee in terms of the actual outcome of this decision of the reuse committee. Are we advisory or are we actually determined in terms of the, if the lease versus the sale of the property of those parking spaces?
So the recommendation of whether it's a sale or lease, like any other committee decision, goes to the full city council. Then the full city council will make a determination of recommending to the mayor whether or not it be a sale or lease. Whatever the city council authorizes the mayor to do is what the mayor has the ability to do. She doesn't have to do it. But for example, if the city council were to authorize the mayor to lease the property for a minimum sale price, she could not, I'm sorry, if the city council authorized the mayor to sell the property and set the minimum sale price, she could not decide she's going to lease it. She can only do what she's been authorized to do. Does that make sense?
Yep. That's exactly what I wanted to understand. Okay. I'm on in the position of preferring to lease the property because I think that just in terms of the long-term picture, I concur with what Councilor Oliver spoke to, as well as an abutter, Annette Seward, in the sense of, trying to think globally about a village center and the parking needs. But I do want to support this business. And I think that it's, important that we support small businesses in especially specifically to go, that they can actually occupy the smaller footprint of this building. Because as Councilor Malachy mentioned, this building is, pretty significant in terms of architecturally, and it actually is a wonderful site. So I think of it as, you know, I want to support the business going into the site. So I'm of a mind that I would support a lease for the, you know, the 69% of the land that's owned on the 8 parking spaces that are in this position.
Thank you very much, Councillor Getz. I see Councillor Lipoff. And Councillor Oliver, do you still have your hand up, or is that, thank you. Councillor Lipoff.
Okay, thank you. Ultimately, I can see it going either way. I started by thinking that we should lease, have the police have the use of it. A long-term lease isn't messy. If it's long enough, there's no reason why we'd be in a new position every 1, 2, 5 years. It was a long-term lease before for a reason. That being said, I've come around to the sale for 2 reasons. Number one, it's cleaner. Number two, as a business owner, I would think that whatever business is in there and is owning that building would want to own those spaces. And to try to convince Councilor Oliver that he's wrong about his line of thinking, this is not a bunch of spaces in a public parking lot that we're selling to a business. These are parking spaces on land that is partially already owned by the owner of this business. That's what makes these spaces different. So they have some ownership, and they're just taking the full ownership of the spaces that are adjacent to their business. They deserve to have those spaces that are closest, that they own 30-something, 40% or whatever that is. And they deserve that. They deserve to control them. Now, if you're worried about spaces in West Newton, the people who are parking at these spaces, and there should be signs that say for Hilliard's Chocolates only, because they own that land if we sell it to them, those spaces leave others in West Newton open when people are using it for Hilliard's. So the line of thinking that these spaces that are going to be owned by Hilliard's should be open to everybody in West Newton. It's not a public space. It's on their land, and that really doesn't make sense ultimately when we sell these to them. And if we lease it to them, they will have control over it for a portion of the time, and the police will have control, and they still should not be open to anybody in West Newton. I think we should do the sale. I'm hoping we're going to move forward on this tonight and keep the process going. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lipoff. Councillor Albright, you have your hand up.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
I just want to agree with what Councillor Lipoff just said. You know, at first I was bound and determined that these spaces be for lease. But then, when you hear about how the messy ownership of these spaces is, how can the city do anything when they don't own the whole damn parking space? So this straightens out. I think Councillor Gentile, I would have thought, thinking about Councillor Gentile and his thinking about we should never sell city land, and that's not, well, we should never sell it. But on the other hand, this is a messy problem that we're solving, where the Hilliards would own part of a space and the city would own part of a space. That makes no sense, because then the city can't really do anything with those spaces if Hilliards doesn't let us. So I hope that those of you who are thinking about only leasing the spaces will think about the messy situation we have here, and that we're really just straightening out something that needs to be straightened out. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver, would you like to have another go at it? Go ahead.
Well, if I'm going to be called out, yeah, I'm going to have another go at it. What I'm actually saying, Councillor Lipoff, is I would much prefer, and I recognize we can't do that within the confines of the process that we're in, is to create a scenario where we augment as a city the 31% of the spaces that are, currently owned by Hilliards or are attached to One Chestnut, and work it out such that whatever the right number of spaces are allocated to the property, and we retain as a city whatever's remaining, a land swap, if you will. I'm going to butcher the words. I know you're in the business of getting those words right. I'm not. My simple premise here is that the reality for me is that, and I think Counselor Getz said it pretty well, like we have a responsibility, in my opinion, and it's not wrong, Counselor Lipoff. It's just my opinion. And if you don't share it, that's fine. But I don't appreciate being called out in a public forum. So let's stop that, please. My opinion here is that we have a greater responsibility here than to one property owner. To that end, I totally understand the difficulty that would kind of go with what I'm proposing, but I do think it is achievable. It might not be simple, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, like, we can't do this for other businesses in the village center. And I don't think we should be doing it simply because these spots either used to be leased to that property or they're proximal to that property. To me, that doesn't make sense. And I hope that's okay with other people here, that I have an opinion here. And if you don't agree with it, that's fine. But I'm not wrong because I have that opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Oliver. Counselor Gentile.
So as Attorney Lee mentioned earlier, this item is going to the full council, and that's where it's actually going to be finalized. So I'd like to suggest that we vote on the motion, and I'm not suggesting it because I think it's going to pass. If I had to place a bet, I don't think it's going to pass. But let's move things along. Either it passes or it fails. If it fails, then someone can offer another motion to lease or sell. But let's get this thing done tonight, please, and let's vote on it.
Thank you. Counselor Malachy.
Yeah, I just wanted to, so I totally see Counselor Oliver's point, and normally I would feel the same way, but for the reasons of this specific proposal, I think the benefits of doing it and doing it now outweigh what would otherwise be a philosophical reservation about devoting spaces to one business. I think we have the city has an obligation to do a lot better job of finding or somehow creating or acquiring more parking in West Newton Square. I think and hope that the next administration will have an opportunity to do that in conjunction with the police headquarters renovation improvement project, which I sure hope will include some kind of parking deck behind the main station that takes care of the police department's needs and would let us free up some of these lot spaces or the Davis Street spaces or all of the spaces that seem to be sucked up by the police department, get those back into public availability. And even not waiting for that, Councilor Wright, who I think is on one or two other meetings at the moment, she's trying to figure out if we can get parking allowed on the bridge over the Mass Pike the way they do in Boston, and maybe make those police spaces and free up some spaces that the police department is using elsewhere, whether it's the 6 in the lot that, boy, I sure wish we could have just made those metered spaces, or the spaces on Davis Street. So that's I think the problem of shortage of parking in West Newton is bigger than just these 8 spaces, and it's something that we've got to address. But the opportunity to get Hilliard's in here is right now. And realistically, the alternative, that the 1 Chestnut Street, it's zoned VC3. Somebody could do 5 stories, 4.5 stories there, and not need any parking at all, and that would worsen the parking situation in the square more than not having spaces that we haven't had for 40 years anyway. So, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Maliki. Counselor Lucas.
Thank you, Chair. I agree 100% with Councilor Maliki on her last point about the VC3. There's obviously a huge parking problem in West Newton Square. I don't think we're going to solve that tonight. That requires a long-term discussion with many different city agencies and stakeholders. But Councilor Gentile made a motion to move this item forward with a sale. I am going to vote against it, not because I don't want Hilliard's to open, because I do want them to open. I do want Hilliard's to succeed in West Newton. It's just that my preference is that it be a lease. I want this process to move forward to the full council, and the full council ultimately will make a recommendation to the mayor. And I am almost certain that's going to be debated next Monday night, whether it's going to be a sale or a lease amongst the full council. So I just wanted to let everyone know my how I'm going to vote tonight and why I'm going to vote that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Lucas. Do we have any other comments? If not, let us, we have a motion on the floor from Counselor Gentile. Is everyone clear on the motion? The motion is for the sale, recommendation of the sale of the parking places and with a price tag on it of $276,000. Are there any questions on the motion itself? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
But raise
What
your yellow hand so that we can count them. 1, 2, 3, and I will be voting in favor also of a sale. So that is 4 in favor, those against. Counselor Gentile, take your hand down. You've already voted. Okay, 1, 2, 3 against, 4 in favor. So I'm sorry.
That is correct, Counselor Danberg. It's 4-3. The motion passes.
4-3. So it passes 4-3.
Well, Green have voted against it.
Counselor Gentile, we have one person who is not here, that is Counselor Laredo. So would you read the names, Cassidy, so that we can be clear of those in favor and those against?
Yes, so it was Counselor Maliki, Lipoff, Danberg, and Gentile in favor, and Counselor Lucas, Getz, and Oliver opposed.
Okay, thank you very much. We have taken the vote. Thank you all. I think there is no further business for the committee this evening. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much for coming.